Survivor, and when the show ends, you really want to talk about it with like-minded friends. It might be hard to find some, but don't you shed a tear. Check out the Purple Rock Podcast, and this is what you'll hear. John will make some dumb jokes, Andy likes to yell and curse, and if they're not available, the backup hosts are so much worse. Spend the whole time being jerks, telling you you're wrong, and so we got this other jerk to sing you our theme song. It's the Purple Rock Survivor Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Purple Rock Survivor Podcast. I am your host this week, every week. I am the one true host. That'd be me, Andy. And with me this week, long time no here, Brad. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Yes, it is good to finally be back. It has been, like you said, a very long time. I think it's been like 3 seasons in a row where you've asked me like, hey, you want to podcast on Thursday? I'm like, no, I am busy and I am booked, and see you next season. So
yeah, I mean, as it is, we're doing this probably about an hour earlier than normal because you got a bedtime you got to stick to.
Oh, yes. Definitely need to go to bed on time. And when you asked, I was like, I will do this if you can meet my bedtime.
Which I respect that. Survivor really shouldn't take any more of our time than it already does.
And I will say, I when I podcast with John, I don't know if any listeners remember this, me and John keep it under a tight hour. And I know that when Andy and Emily get on the mics, it usually pushes over 90. So we're going to see where we fall on the spectrum today.
Yeah, but I mean, jam-packed episode, so no promises about anything. Let's just start there. What did you think of this episode?
Okay, so obviously, like, the first, how long was that? Like 20, 30 minutes with the snake bite and Jake and all of that?
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, at least, right? Like, that is, we can put that aside. We can talk about that because that is sort of its separate thing.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, I mean, obviously that was like interesting. I thought knowing that he made it out okay, like it was well handled. Outside of that, though, I'm feeling like this is, I don't want to necessarily say mid, because to me that feels very pejorative, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a way they don't necessarily mean, but it did feel just like a very standard post 40 episode of a post 40 season where, okay, you've starved these people and you haven't given them a flint, and oh wow, surprise, they're not doing well, you know. And so it's another tribe being decimated, and you hope at some point, maybe after 50, because the fans voted to give the tribes on 50, right, their flint, their rice, their water, that maybe we can pivot back to feeding and like kind of nourishing the players.
Yeah, and to be clear, we don't know that the fans actually did vote that. We're assuming that they did, or at least hoping, but we don't know the results of that voting just yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would describe this episode as what we call in the podcasting biz an episode to forget to download. Much like the first one, much like everyone. Yeah, again, I actually don't think this week's was as bad as last week's. Like, it was definitely interesting in parts that we'll get into. Not necessarily things to debate as much, but we'll try. But man, if it keeps going this way, if they don't make that change, 50 and plus is like, do we just start skipping the first few episodes? Like, we'll join you once things are settled in, and that's again why I'm glad, that we have you this week, a new voice, because I don't always enjoy saying the same thing every week, unless it's like, I told you so. That I enjoy very much.
He enjoys so much. He loves it so much.
Yeah, I prep it. You get to see the preview in the text, like, but yeah, here it's like a lot of it's the same complaints that we've had for always, for like the past several years about this. A lot of it's the same I already talked about last week. So yeah, no, it isn't. But we'll probably continue to podcast every episode when I remember to actually save them, because
as much as the fans would sometimes wish that they weren't saved and they weren't posted, that he is going to keep podcasting.
Yeah.
He's going to keep posting.
And it's like, well, because once you get into that, well, we probably didn't need to podcast this week. And you don't want to set that bar when you're this podcast, because it's like, do we ever need to? And that's probably just something we don't want to really like stare in the face of. What value any of this brings, I think I know the answer to that. But yeah, so like, yeah, I mean, mid is probably about right. I know you're worried about the pejorative. I think I'm fine with it. In fact, I'd say probably other people would argue not pejorative enough. But so before we kind of dig more into this episode, as I was saying, is a lot of kind of what's on, like what we've already seen for this season, what we've seen for Survivor of recent terms. But we haven't gotten you to talk about this stuff. So I kind of figured that's a good opportunity, and feel free to stretch. How have you found the season so far, as we are now, 4.5 hours into footage of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of an extension of what I've said of like, it just feels very post 40. And it feels very much of, the same nature. Like you said, like we keep sort of saying the same things. I don't know that I'm ever going to get to a point where I don't want to watch Survivor. But I do wish there was a little more variety. There was a little more variation, right, amongst the different seasons, back when it was in the tens, in the teens, and the 20s, there was a clear distinction from season to season in a way that I don't believe really exists now.
No.
Like if I said season 42, you have to take a minute to pause to get to, let's say, 8 names of who was on that season, unless you're like a really super duper fan, you know what I mean? Versus when I say like 25, like I could immediately pull, like the entire cast.
I'll say the numbers for me, I can't get either of them. I'm not sure which one 25 is.
25 is Philippines.
Okay, well then I'm there. Yeah.
Right. So then exactly, right? But it's like we've basically, taken out all of the variety on these seasons, especially when you do just go by numbers now. Like I know there's only so many ways to describe Fiji when you've been filming there for like 20 years. But I don't know. It feels very much the same. And so this season so far, I feel like is fitting that post 40 mold where one tribe is being absolutely decimated. And so we spend a lot of time with that tribe. We sort of see people on other tribes, and some people are popping, some people aren't. I find that there are some people on this season who are interesting, but not necessarily compelling. Like I'm interested by Savannah and Nate, and to a certain degree, Rizzo. Aside from maybe Savannah, I don't know that I'm necessarily latching onto them as like really compelled by their story or really absolutely rooting for them, like to go above and beyond. On the yellow tribe, I would say like MC, I'm drawn to, and everyone else is kind of like, okay, you're nice, you're there, but there are also people who I think have been completely purpled in a way that I'm like, is it because we're spending all this time with blue? So like Sophi on yellow. Did you recall that there was a woman named Sophi on the yellow tribe? Like
I recall that there are 2 people named Sophi. The identity of the other Sophi, I can't give you anything on that.
Right, and I think that that's part of it, right? Like you wouldn't know that this person existed if it were not for the fact that there were 2 Sophis and we knew that we had to keep them separate.
Yeah, if her name was Jessica, I'd be like, well, what? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and I think it definitely is the fact that we're always having a losing tribe. Like, again, and this nothing new. This is everybody's having a similar reaction. Like the blue people, like seem annoying. Maybe there's somebody you like or whatever. We can get into that. But it's like, are they actually annoying, or are they just losers who lose, and they're not lovable losers, no matter what they might say themselves. But it's like, are they worse than the other tribes, or it's just like, we're not seeing the other tribes being bad and thus annoying because we're barely seeing them at all.
Right. And I think that is part of the issue too, of like, we're spending all this time with them losing, and they're not exactly lovable losers. But it was also because when you saw these tribes in the past, right, to call back to Philippines with Matt Singh, or when you saw, Pagong, right, like there was something to the narrative of you had equal tribes, you had these opportunities, and you just can't find a win. And there's something to the uniqueness of that and the rarity of that makes that story compelling. But when you've seen it season after season after season in this post-40 era, and we can pinpoint why it's happening, right? It's because you've taken away the flint. You're not giving them rice. And you're saying, well, you got to earn it. But it's basically just Fiji season after season after season. You've given, just on sort of like the coin flip of the first challenge, 2 tribes, a leg up, and this one tribe, this severe disadvantage. Like the story keeps playing out the same way. And so at what point does this stop being compelling? I feel like we're past that point. We've crossed that Rubicon.
Yeah, there really isn't a whole lot of new dimensions to bring to the story, but they did. They found it this time. Bitten by wildlife. Like, that is at least a variation on this. And like, look, man, maybe this tribe would have always sucked anyway. Very clearly, they have no puzzle ability, and this has been 3 straight puzzle challenges, which in itself is probably a bit of a flaw. I get, like, there's always going to be a lot of puzzles and team-based challenges, but maybe you didn't have to do all 3 of them, just in case of something like this. But it's like, also maybe they would be passable at puzzles if they had any kind of brain capacity, but they do not, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, but that's, and I got into this last week. It's like, every year it's like, oh, is this like the worst disaster tribe and all of this? It's like, nah, and they just feel bad. They feel like disasters, and they feel like they suck because the deck is stacked. I can't criticize Blue, especially not after this week. But it's like, yeah, maybe they suck, or maybe this is just what happens when you put an extreme imbalance and the competitive imbalance. And it's like, yeah, man, if they would have randomly won the very first challenge, maybe they'd be fine, and red would look like the most annoying losers. I have a feeling yellow wouldn't be losing anyway, so that I'm not even going to entertain. Which, frankly, is a different discussion that I don't think we've had on the podcast. We've discussed it behind the scenes, but I think the Jason and MC being airlifted into that tribe situation threw off the balance.
I think so too. But I also think it's just there's something about, and Probst was calling it out in the challenge of Jason just came prepared for the puzzles, and not necessarily in a Carson way where he's studied them all, because I don't think we seen this exact turtle puzzle before.
No, I think post Carson they've made sure that they're not repeating puzzles anymore.
Right. And I think like all the choral elements I think were different. So to be, first up on basically a brand new puzzle, and he was cruising right through it.
Yeah.
There's something to, I think, Jason's puzzle ability, to give him credit, and not necessarily to say it was all, just the whole alternate swap thing.
Yeah.
But
maybe any tribe that he was going to be put on would probably have a big
exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And so to your point, the fact that all of these challenges have ended in puzzles, right, is definitely playing to his advantage. But I do think that is something that is interesting, in that Blue was not trailing the entire time for this particular challenge, right? They were actually, I think, in the lead for a certain portion out of all 3 of them, and then fell apart on the puzzle.
Yeah.
Right.
Which, again, maybe they just don't have that person, which, again, is that their fault? I mean, they didn't pick their team. But moreover, like, if you're already not strong at something, you're not going to get stronger at it with the mental component when you're just like suffering to a different degree as everybody else. 100%. And like they have to notice. They have to notice, but I don't have full confidence that the show does, just because it's just such an ethos. Like, and it's like, oh, underdogs. Now it's like just structurally, how your show works. Like, I don't even care about unfairness. I rarely care about unfairness. We're going to get to something that some people might consider unfair tonight, and I'll be like, I don't care. It's just, that you tell more of the story of the losers. So if it's always the same losers to start a season, that's boring. That's tough on you. It means that you have to spend a lot of your time showing backstage stuff on an episode like this, because there's no content otherwise.
I think that is part of the issue. Is that I feel like post 40, the reason that this came about was because they transitioned to a 26-day season, right? Like, the production constraints just made it that had to be the season length. And so if you're not properly starving someone for the 39 days, which is like a weird phrase to say, right? But if you're not getting 39, day levels of starvation, then we're going to amp up that, hurt factor by taking away the flint, the rice, the fire. And so to some degree, I feel like that misses the component of what makes Survivor compelling, right? What makes Survivor compelling is not necessarily the Calvin ball with the rules. I think they've heard that, we didn't love that Sari got defaulted out, right? And they've stripped back a little bit some of those elements. But also, it's like, what makes Survivor compelling is not necessarily that people are starving. That is an element, of course, of the show and of the game. But ultimately, what this comes down to, of what makes the show compelling, is people, real life people, being put into these tough situations where they have to ultimately survive, but also navigate super complex game dynamics and make really hard choices, right? Everything that is compelling about the show comes down to that element of making difficult choices. And I think that's actually what I liked about this episode. And I know a lot of people didn't like this episode, but to me, when we got to the 3-person tribal, it became a 3-way prisoner's dilemma, right? Like there's a lot of game theory in that each of the players, right? Jeremiah, Sophi, and Alex, they all had a specific decision to make, right? In that Jeremiah, do I vote with Sophi for Alex, or do I sort of like try to save myself and vote for Sophi, right? Same thing for Sophi, inverted. But then also for Alex, even though the obvious play is to play your idol, right? There is still this choice of, do I try to bluff my way through it, get someone to flip and turn, and I can still hold my idol, right? So like each of them, because there's only so many ways that this can work out, is stuck in this dilemma, right? To me, that was actually an interesting prisoner's dilemma for 3 people to be a part of.
Yeah, so let's get into that decision, because honestly, it's for the first time this season, really, there was a genuine decision to be made at Tribal Council. Again, that's why the podcasting also hasn't been that great. It's like, yeah, you vote out Sophi, duh. Or no, you vote out Nicole, duh. You vote out Annie, duh. Like, there really hasn't been any, but what if? It's like, yeah, like Nicole or Annie, who cares, was the answer. For those of you who missed the first episode, which was everybody. And then when it was Annie, it's like, yeah, of course it's Annie. Like, there's been no decision making for anyone other than like Jawan. Does he pick, tribe disadvantage or his own extra vote? Like, those are like the 2 decisions so far this season. So yeah, this time we actually have a decision, and I know like as it was happening, you were very big on the idea that they should target Alex, they being Jeremiah and Sophi. Why would that be the right play in your mind?
So to me, I think it comes down to, do you actually want to work with this person long term? And I do feel like Jeremiah and Sophi had made up their minds that they didn't want to work with Alex long term.
Right. Which is a decision I should support, because he comes off as slimy. Continue.
Which is fair. I mean, like, in Survivor, you don't need a reason to say
vibes are enough. Yeah,
exactly. Right. If you don't trust the person, it's hard to break from that. Right. So if you've already decided that you don't want to work with this person long term, then there is more upside in trying to get this person out, right? Like, if you could save yourself, right? And you try to, okay, I'm going to protect myself by, if I'm Sophi, voting out Jeremiah. But the thing is that you still need to convince Alex to vote out Jeremiah, right? If I'm Sophi and I vote for Jeremiah, but Alex is still voting for me, right? It kind of actually doesn't even matter in that scenario what Jeremiah does, but that ultimately means I'm more likely to go home. Yeah. Right. And so 2 things can be true at once, which is that you need to convince Alex to vote for Jeremiah. And again, in this scenario, in this hypothetical, I'm Sophi. Right. But I also can still be working with Jeremiah to get out Alex. Right. You can protect yourself defensively by convincing Alex that this is the right move. And in doing so, maybe also convince him not to play the idol, which Sophi didn't do here, but potentially could have happened, right? And then you're still working with Jeremiah to get out Alex. And so in the scenario where, let's say everything was, the same there, where Alex plays his idol, right? Sophi had voted for Alex with Jeremiah. So the idol play is successful, right? It's a 1-0 vote. And then Alex is like, hey, what the hell? You voted for me. Okay. We go to either a tribe swap, right? Where now you're free agents anyway. You actually might have more value if you were a lone agent as opposed to, this pair of 2, and then people want to stamp you out, as opposed to, hey, let's just pick up this one person, right? And they can be a number for us. Or there wasn't a tribe swap and you're a 2-0 tribe, which, okay, I'm against you anyway.
Yeah.
We end up back in
one of
tribe,
us
making fire.
Or we don't lose, right? But we're going to lose. So, yeah, I mean, forgive me if I'm basically just summarizing your point, but yeah, I was of the same mind as it was happening. Like, with the caveat, if you are of the mind that you would rather work with the other person than Alex, obviously, if you'd rather work with Alex, then you just don't vote out Alex. But if your preference is Alex over the other person, there's not a whole lot of risk in trying. Because the risk that you propose, and they were just like, well, then if he plays his idol, he gets to decide who goes home. Well, that's true anyway if you're trying to avoid voting for him, because it's basically whichever direction his vote goes would either be the sole vote or would be the second vote. of the
Right.
two. So it's like, yeah, if your preference is that you would like to remove Alex, then you should go for it. And if you lose, whatever, you were losing anyway, and it was going to be his decision. Because the alternative is just like, well, because we're afraid he might play his idol, neither of us are going to vote for him. We're both just going to vote for each other, and then it's whichever way Alex votes is where this shakes down anyway. So at least this gives you a chance to have your preferred outcome if voting out Alex is that. So yeah, I was aligned when it happened too. Now, obviously, then we get to the vote. He does play his idol, but Sophi flipped her vote to Jeremiah. What do you think of her changing her mind on that one?
I think, to a certain degree, I can't fault it because this ties back to they are starving. They are not operating at full capacity. And if you think that there's a chance that this helps protect you, then, okay. But as you and I are establishing, like, I think that mathematically is not necessarily in her favor. But she did end up being safe, and so for the outcome that happened, it does help her potentially to not necessarily have Alex be pitted against her. And especially when they do go into the tribe swap, if they end up on the same tribe, right, then they just need to pick up one more person, right? If they don't end up on the same tribe, she gets to play as a free agent and potentially sell herself as a number. So
I guess I'd have to pick up two people because it'll probably be 7 and 7. So,
do we think that they're going to 2 tribes?
Oh, yeah, I guess that was the assumption I was making, but that is not necessarily a correct assumption, right? Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Because I forgot that 4 people are out of the game at this point. Yeah. Okay.
Like they should kill Blue dead with fire and stay off, the snake ridden beach.
Well, as Jeff said, it's very rare, Andy. It's rare that people get bitten. So there's nothing. Did you feel that it was very legalese that he was saying like, hey, someone hit a very potentially deadly hazard, and we want to be clear that the chance of that happening to you is less than 0.1%. Like, did it feel very CYA sort of like, please sign this waiver that you will get in the water with us?
They probably already signed the waiver. Look, obviously there's some ass covering, but at the same time, it's like, well, the math seems to suggest, again, they've been in Fiji forever. It's eliminated a lot of the personalities of the season, and it's never happened before. We're 49 seasons in, and no matter where they were fucking lions outside the gate in one season. So it's like, he's probably right. We don't know why it happened, but sometimes weird shit happens, I think my guess, pure guess, I don't know. Sophi probably got a very good indication before Tribal Council that Alex is going to play his idol. And in that case, it's probably just not worth taking the shot. Like, if you really feel like, okay, he's playing the idol, then your shot isn't going to succeed, at which point, if it preserves some possibility to work with the guy down the line, then it's not worth taking a shot that or feel very strongly is going to fail anyway. So that's what I'm guessing happened.
That actually raises a question for me, which is back in the prisoner's dilemma of should he play the idol, should he not play the idol? Do you think that Alex should have sold harder that he was going to play the idol? Because I felt like he was being a little coy with it of like, maybe I'll play it, maybe I'll hold it. I don't know. But I'm like, I feel like even if you were going to hold it, you should be selling harder that you are going to play the idol, particularly for this deterrence effect. Do you feel like he played this correctly by sort of being demure about whether he was going to actually play the idol or not? Or should he have signaled harder?
I guess for a different player, or playing against different people, overselling that you're going to do it is a strong signal that you're not going to do it. So I guess it depends on what your desired outcome is here, Like if your desired outcome is to not play the idol, and then you just sell really hard, I'm going to do it and all this, like a lot of seasoned Survivor players at this point, like if somebody pulls the move now at Tribal Council where they take their hidden immunity idol and put it around their neck, a lot of people will call it out and be like, okay, that's a bluff. We have to vote for them. Now, I think Alex was, I don't trust that he was thinking those steps ahead. I think his, wishy-washy, I'm going to do it or not, is just true to his nature. From what the sense I've gotten of him on the show, I should clarify, not, whatever bias I might have due to his profession. negative bias. The recent things said in comment only strengthen that negative bias. But yeah, like it. I guess I'm saying, like, if he says harder, like, oh yeah, I'm doing it, and just in every conversation is like, no matter what happens, I know I'm free. If you play too hard, then that creates suspicion. There's probably no way to always to guarantee the outcome. The one gouge coming is just like, you have to play it, you know. Even though, as it turned out, he didn't technically have to play it. In a scenario like this, where there was no time for real preparation, like you started the day on a try before, and now it's 7-3. You've lost your main ally out of nowhere. You really don't know where the ground is. And again, like most likely you survive this one, the game completely changes. I wouldn't risk it any. You play the idol. So like whatever, you know, being wishy-washy or not, and shouldn't change your calculus at all because you're going to play the idol.
I definitely agree with that. I do think that, like, in that scenario, I'm playing the idol 100% because, I mean, how many times have we seen someone try to preserve an idol and it's like, okay, you saved it up for, you know, a round that you were eliminated 5 weeks before you even got to the point where you wanted to use this thing. I'm thinking more of if there was a chance that he was not going to how do you calibrate that? But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, no, like, yeah, the only way you'd play harder is if you were trying not play the idol. And my advice is don't even think about that. Because it's unlikely you'll be in a riskier scenario anytime soon than you are right now. 100%. Again, I know that's saying
because you know that votes are coming for you.
Yeah, or like there's literally only two different ways that the people you are with can vote: your name or a different name. So it's just like, yeah, I'm going to play an idol. And again, look, I say that saying like he could be the next person voted out. There could be a tribe swap, and they're just like, yeah, him. And it'd be like, hey, it'd be nice to have an idol now. It's like, yeah, but it doesn't matter. This is survive in advance time, and this is about as risky as it gets. So I have no criticism of him doing it, even though he will get no points in our fantasy game for doing so. Let's back it up, though. So that was decision making. Actually, real quick, I want to talk about that. When Sophi is having her strategy discussion with Alex, and obviously trying to put the target on Jeremiah, both because that'd be good. It'd be good that his vote isn't going your way, and two, to sell the idea that like, no, we're voting for Jeremiah. You don't need to play your idol so that we can vote you out. I was amused by her loyalty bona fides. It's like, oh, you can trust me. I'm a loyal person. I've been dating the same guy for 3 whole years and I haven't cheated on him once. It's like, that's your definition, huh? Like, it's like, wow. Do you have medals for such acts of extreme loyalty that you haven't cheated on him in 3 whole years?
Andy, I think you're underestimating how hard it is to not cheat on your partner. It's so hard. I think you got to give props where they're due.
Yeah. I mean, who among us can say that they've been monogamous for 3 straight years? It's just, to be clear, because the person I've been monogamous for far longer than 3 years is listening to this. That was a joke. Yeah, it's just it suggests to me.
If Kim didn't know that was a joke, that would be a red flag.
Frankly, I think that morning was more to the people like, isn't his wife listening to this? Is like, no, she knows the score. I genuinely believe she is not worried, and I'm not, no shade to me on that one. My office is literally our bedroom. I don't really get out a lot of opportunities. Not that I'd be looking. But like just going to that as like your loyalty example suggests to me that this might be a new record for Sophi in some ways. Might be maybe not a new record of like times that she's been faithful, but more the record length of relationship time. And when I started that,
she's just quick to like build connections with people. Let's just say that if she feels a spark, she's going to chase it. Because I will say, I don't know if you caught this comment. When Jake had left, I get it. It was an emotional time. Like, you build fast bonds with these people, and then all of a sudden he's just disappeared, and it's a very, like scary situation. Is he going to be okay? But she threw out the line that she said that Jake was the brother that I had never had. I'm like,
or like I think the closest thing I've ever had to an older brother. Yeah.
Right. Or something like that. I'm like, I think you've been out there for like 5 days at this point, maybe 6.
Yeah. I mean,
I get a survivor, but come on.
if we compare that to her other comment, maybe this is the longest she's had a relationship with a man that was like just friendship based or whatever. I don't know. That in the 3 years. I don't know. Again, I'm a very old person who has been in the same relationship since like just after the towers fell. Like it's been a long time. So just for me, it was like, ooh, 3 years, huh? And like obviously younger people have different experiences, but she's like 29. Like it's not like it's like if Rizzo was like that, it's like, okay, man, I get it. Actually, if you can survive high school with being frankly, I might question whether that is a positive achievement of like being in the same relationship when you're a teenager through high school and never, straying. Because those opportunities aren't going to come as much longer later on in life. But it's like, ooh, like, oh, wait. So let me get this straight. You've been in a relationship for 3 years. Well, then, ride or die. It's you and me. Frankly, that would have made me decide to vote her out and team up with Jeremiah. The "I have not cheated on my boyfriend for 3 years" t-shirt that you're wearing is actually leading to more questions that you think the t-shirt is answering.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So changing gears, we'll go to I actually think was the best part of the episode. Let me finish that thought. Obviously, seeing somebody get attacked by wildlife and being evacuated from the game, I'm not for that. That's not what I'm here for. I'm a human being, fellow countryman at that. But I actually found the peek behind the scenes to be really fascinating. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. I thought that part of the episode was the best part this week. I think it was very well done. I think the thing that really set the tone sort of immediately was the fact that they, broke the fourth wall by just saying, here's our safety binder of all the things we're allowed to like do, not do, eat, not eat, and like wildlife to be afraid of. I think the moment that you saw Alex show that binder in confessional, it immediately pinged for me of like, oh shit, this is serious.
Yeah.
This is a big deal. And then, you're with Jake on the boat. You're seeing like medical rush in. I think there were different camera angles that didn't feel very, very Survivor. But then at a certain point, it does sit with you of like, oh wait, he's going to be okay. Because if he was like dead, like we would have
heard about it by now. That wouldn't have been something like that they get to keep under wraps until it airs.
Right.
No. Like people know who's going to be on season 50 amongst this cast. I'm not one of them. But like that news gets out. So yeah, a contestant dies on Survivor. Like we heard about that when it was in Paris,
Right. And even if he was like critically injured, like it would be in very poor taste to show it this way.
Yeah.
And so once you sort of like get past that, I guess like viewer adrenaline rush of like, oh my God, right? Then you sort of get to sit with like, oh no, I know he's going to be okay. And so we just get to watch this play out. And I thought it was like, no, this is actually like cool to see that they have these protocols in place. I think, the communication between, med staff and Jake and Probst, it all felt very supportive, right? Just overall, I thought it was, as you said, interesting to see behind the scenes, but it also did feel like even though someone is being medevaced for a very serious reason, it didn't feel, quite so devastating as, some other injuries that we've seen.
And it didn't feel as ghoulish because, as you say, like I'm like he's gonna be okay. I was also already spoiled that like the stretcher moment and like is he breathing? They threw that into an ad this week that I saw that day and kind of warned you guys about, which alerted you to the fact that there was an episode of Survivor on that night. Yes. But just seeing the whole process, I don't have like takes on it. That's what I'm like. I actually like. I think this is an episode that we'll remember for a long time because of those glimpses that we got. But it's not like I can be like, oh, they could have done that better. Now that said, I know there are people out there who are doing that, and like I get like if it kind of your sense of propriety is the word I think I'm trying to go for. They're like, oh, Jeff's like narrating all that. It's like, well, I mean, it's still a TV show. If we're going to get to see it at all, they're going to explain to us, the viewers, what's happening. If we don't, if it's just like he got taken away and then we find out at, when they found out, then yeah, there wouldn't be those moments of like Jeff explaining the situation. I think it's better that we had those moments, both because as a longtime Survivor fan, it's kind of interesting to see that peek behind the curtain. And I said, frankly, it's the most dramatic thing to happen all season long. So I'm also kind of glad that we got to see it, with the caveat, of course, that we knew that the man was not in mortal danger anymore. One thought I had, though, like when they're explaining to him that they're not going to let him back in the game, which I'm not questioning. And I'm not one of those people who has a podcast and questions doctors' expertise on things. That's so many other podcasts. But it did seem like weird how the doctor was putting it, because basically it kind of came off like, I think it's dangerous to put people on Survivor. Well, to be out in that environment without eating, without, air conditioning, without this while recovering. It's like, okay, but yeah, like if he had scraped if he got stabbed in the foot by like a piece of, well, coral is kind of an animal, but like something is like, ow, ow, ow. It's like, yeah, no, I mean, that sounds like a horrible environment to be in. I don't know that there's any more untrue for Jake than it is for everybody else. Again, like, I think there was probably more going on. I trust the decision to pull him. I also think it worked out very well for him personally that it happened the way it happened. But it's just like, kind of just sounds like the doctor is uncomfortable with the conditions of Survivor and that tribes in particular, in which case, same.
Yeah. And to clarify, you're saying it worked out for him because he got to see the birth of his child.
Yes.
Which,
thank you for to clarify.
Yes.
In case somebody wasn't, that didn't see like the screen. Apparently, some people think that they didn't show that in their broadcast area. I suspect they were just looking down from their TV screen when it happened, because it wasn't like a long shot or anything.
No. Yeah. But I do agree with you. I think it's funny to imagine the concept of a doctor on this production who is just in the corner shaking his head the entire time, so everyone knows that he disapproves of what's happening on the show. Like,
literally, it just feels like he could see anybody for anything. It's like, it's not healthy to send them back in that environment.
Exactly.
Because it's like, he got bit. That's bad, but it's like, but like he did end up like staying for observation, like in the hospital in Sydney for like a couple of days. Like it's all legit. It's just like, I mean, it kind of feels like you could say that about anybody. And I know some people are like, well, once they give them fluids, it's like, no, they've actually given people fluids before and then sent them back into the game. Usually like on site, not in base camp. Mm-hmm. But like, it's not like now we've given them too much of advantage. It's kind of like, we probably just brought them back to the level they were at before this extreme need for fluids struck in. Now, I should note, some of those people who got the fluids did end up getting medevaced a little later on anyway. So, but yeah, it was just a kind of a strike. It's like, yeah, you're not wrong, doctor. It does sound like being on Survivor is a very unhealthy environment. But then the other decision is that they decide to go ahead and have their challenge that was already scheduled for that day. And in fact, I did read Jake's interview with Dalton Ross, what he was doing there from his perspective. I don't know the full thing, because there's this question is like, what prompted the snake to bite him? I don't know, man. I'm not going to get into that. You can just
snakes are snakes. If you get too close, they're going to bite you. I mean, it's not exactly rocket science.
Yeah. He had this ritual before challenges that he'd lay out at the beach with his feet in the water and close his eyes and think about home and have conversations with his wife. So that's what happened. So like this was not long before the time that they would anticipate going to a challenge. So in terms of the timing, that's kind of what we get there. There's but I do think a question hangs out there is like, was it right for them to still have the challenge after medevacing Jake, or should they just have said, hey, Blue lost a member, the Survivor gods have been appeased, no challenge today. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't have strong thoughts. I think it fits the precedent of if someone is medevaced after a challenge, they cancel tribal. Mm-hmm. I do think that it was a bit strange how quickly Probst pivoted to, and the game goes on and get your head in the game. I mean, like, there could have been maybe a bit of a more moment, or maybe there was, and it was just edited out the way, tribal lasts 3 hours and we only see, 10 minutes of it.
I bet it was a bit of both, because I'm suspecting they lost time.
Yes. And that's the other thing that I think too, of when your production schedule is so shortened,
Mm-hmm.
they probably, you're right, were holding, right, the challenge and holding everyone back at camp until they felt like they could move forward. But you put a lot of your season budget into these challenges and getting ready to film them. And so already knowing that you will run one less challenge due to, you know, basically one elimination cycle being taken out, are you gonna, you know, also cancel this one as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say, like, I'm a human being too. Like, it felt awkward learning this devastating news, and then I was like, all right, let's do this challenge. I can understand if from like a human perspective, you would have preferred to not experience that. It was obviously very weird when the challenge is over and neither of the winning tribes celebrate at all. Like, it's an awkward moment, but like, Tyrese Halliburton tore his Achilles in the first half of Game 7 of the NBA Finals. They get him off the court, and then the Pacers had to continue to play basketball. Like, this is just how like competition goes. Sometimes people are pulled from competition due to big injury. They don't cancel the competition. You know, look, death, yes. You know, when the guy was nearly paralyzed in Buffalo, they didn't finish that game. But this isn't that. They knew he was okay. It was a dry bite, a thing I didn't know existed because I don't know a lot about snakes. I imagine that's something me and Jake have in common. Not really a lot of venomous snakes in our part of the world. And by not a lot, I mean none that aren't in like a zoo.
The one thing I do wonder though is if this had been a land challenge, right? If they had not been in the water at all, do you think they could have run this at night potentially? Right?
I don't know.
Like maybe like later in the evening. It sort of messes up the whole production schedule.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, theoretically, could challenges be run at night the way they used to be? Yes. Now that Survivor has basically no outs in their timing and scheduling, no, because nighttime is for tribal council time, you know?
Right. Like, and you got to give people time to like strategize in between challenge and tribal.
Yeah.
But I do, you know, wonder if you could have done a nighttime challenge, light some torches, right, and then still done tribal, you know, just push it back like 2 hours, you know, that might have been one way that this could have played out. Granted, if that's not the challenge that you had lined up on that day, it is not feasible for you to pivot entirely into one of your land challenges and get everything ready for a night challenge. But, you know, there's potentially a hypothetical alternate universe where that did happen.
Yeah. Oh. And then I'll say for this, like, again, it was hell awkward. You know, my heart went out. Like, I kind of wanted them to win one. But I would have wanted them to win anyway because it's boring that they're not. Same time, hey, this is a mercy killing. You know, it's like, frankly, let's get this shit out of the way. And I'm glad it's gone. And now there won't be a tribe that has suffered the whole time. I wonder if they'll like take away the next tribes. Like, say they go to 2. Does the loser lose their flint? I don't know. Probably should, right?
I mean, if that's the ethos of what they're doing, I would hope that, you know, if you've made blue suffer this long, let's keep some. Again, what is fairness in Survivor? Yeah, it doesn't exist, right? No. But let's keep some consistency at a minimum. Yes, if it's not fairness, right, throughout the season. The one thing I actually do wonder about in the swap is not necessarily like, do we go to 2 in the flint and the whatever? It's more of we saw MC and Rizzo get these beware advantages, right? That can only be activated when your tribe loses. Yeah. Right.
And like different locations for each of them for that clue.
Right. Exactly. And so like in this 3-tribe format, that was never going to happen as long as blue was on the board, right? If they get swapped onto the same tribe, or if they don't get swapped onto the same tribe, like what's their opportunity going to look like in terms of getting those idols, right? And how might that impact everything in the post-swap landscape? Because I think it's been a while since we've seen someone get a beware that couldn't be, you know, activated, actually claimed and obtained following a swap where they basically like lost access to their beach and their allies. And maybe there's a more recent example that I'm forgetting and the commenters can remind me. But again, that I think that speaks to everything post 40 blending together and not being distinguishable.
A thing I've heard but didn't investigate is like the eagle-eyed, screen cappers and all that. Did note that when Alex got his, that there's like an extra page of information that seems to cover like if you don't go to tribal council until a swap or a merge. So I do think there are contingencies. But yeah, an interesting contingency, as you point out, is if they are both in the same location. Now, if it were me, I'm like, all right, let it ride. Because like one of them was told to dig near the well, and one of them was told to dig at the boat or the head of the boat or boat near the boat. Well,
Yeah.
you can set that up.
It was Rizzo for the well and MC for the boat.
Yeah, you can set that up in the same place. It's like there's nothing that's saying that there can't be two. Frankly, that could be really interesting. It's like half the tribe's over here doing that, half is over there doing that. Or maybe we'd actually get a scenario where somebody's doing this by themselves. Imagine that. So actually, I think maybe that's what I'm rooting for to happen. But then watch what would happen is they do end up on the same tribe, but don't lose. It's like,
Yep.
Then I'm a tiny pet peeve, meaningless. It's come up a couple times. This like, I don't get a vote until we go to tribal council. That's true of literally everybody. Nobody has a vote until you go to tribal council. So they're just obviously trying to summarize. It's like, if we go to tribal council, I won't have a vote until I find the idol. That is true, but the voting place is tribal council. So, and then I think there was also, should the show have told Blue prior to getting to the challenge mat? I think the humane answer is yes, but I just don't think there was time, and sadly, it'd be like that sometimes. If they would have taken the time to tell them all of that before they showed up on the mat, for one, that would be another scene, because the TV show isn't in the business of creating moments that don't show up on the TV show. It's why they're not allowed to talk on the boats and that sort of thing. But I think literally, like the challenge was probably delayed by multiple hours, so there probably just wasn't time. Man, that sucks. But what are you gonna do?
Right. And I think, if Probst hadn't been traveling back from base camp, there's probably a world where he meets them at their beach, delivers the news, and gives them time to process. And okay, let's all get on the boat together. I'll ride in with you. Yeah. Right. And we'll meet up with Red and Yellow and deliver the news to them. But yeah, like you said, this, excursion with him going back to base camp and everyone delaying to figure out what's going on with Jake and make sure that he's okay. Right. You just eventually you run out of time, and as you said, on a 26-day schedule, there's not that much time for you to lose. Yeah.
And that's actually a good point. It would have to be by Probst. That's just the language of the show. It couldn't be some rando producer informing them that. And Probst was busy. So there you go. Because it wouldn't be cool if it was tree mail, hey, guess what? No. He's alive, so it had to be Probst. And, I know some people sometimes why is Probst at the Institute, always insert himself? It's fucking, that's literally his role. Okay. That's what a host is. And for secondly, Jake again in his interview, and obviously some grain of salt of this is a man who wants to continue his relationship with Survivor, but he said it was very comforting that Probst was there delivering the information, because it's a non-stranger giving you this information. And has some relationship with Probst, and also he's seen him on the TV for all these years. So again, I know being on the internet program people to hate Probst, so it's I kind of feel like they handled this fine. It's not like there's a playbook of what do we do if somebody's life is threatened by one of the animals. I think they did okay. And the best news to come out of all of it, besides Jake is alive and saw his baby, is that we're done with the Blue tribe. It's over with. If it could have been one more episode of this suffering, I'm glad just rip the Band-Aid on that. Since you haven't been on forever, but especially earlier this season, I was just wondering, is anybody else, and you kind of briefly mentioned some names and all that, but if there's anybody who's on the season that you have takes on, is there anybody that's caught your eye or is annoying you or dislike?
I'll actually invert that. I will say I'm not as annoyed by Rizzo as I thought I was going to be.
I'm there too.
When you get introduced though, in the preview for the season as I'm the Riz God, baby, I'm oh, okay, you can keep that energy. I'm good. But he, I think certain moments with him have been over the top. But he's not annoying me as much as I expected. I think Savannah, I am liking. I was surprised that she immediately got drawn to Shannon as the woo energy girl, because I didn't peg Savannah to be a woo energy girl. Finishing off Red I like Nate. I like his energy. We'll see how long he can last if he can hang with this young gun tribe. Negative impression. Okay, I'm trying to remember that her name is Sage, but I think I said this in the PRP Slack that for about a week or two I didn't remember her name because in my mind she was only pee pee poo poo girl. Like you can't keep talking about pee pee poo poo.
Hey, she got a story this week that didn't involve some kind of bodily fluid.
That is
in fact,
true,
there was a bodily fluid or bodies and fluid story this week, and it didn't involve her.
I want to circle back to that, but I will say, I think the thing that I feel bad about is that as Sage was telling her story about how her friends would ghost her and she couldn't maintain friendships and, it was really hard for her in high school. In my mind, I was thinking, girl, is that because you kept talking about pee and poo?
Yeah.
That's the reason your friends are ghosting you?
Maybe there's just only so much that you can just be like farting around and they're like, hey, Sage.
Right. Yeah. We're going to take a detour because I want to put a pin for the public that when Andy... him and I were messaging. We're talking about what our top 3 theme is going to be. This is not the official top 3, but I proposed top 3 liquids that I didn't want in my underwear, and that did not get agreed to. And I think that is a stellar top 3 topic to the point that I'm going to give my top 3.
All right, I'll give you mine real quick. Tie for first place. All liquids. All right, you go.
No, I think there's tiers to it.
Okay,
like number 3 is pee.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want
absolutely
underwear because it signals like bad things have happened. Either I've embarrassed myself, right, or I'm scared peeless, right. I'm gonna say 2, just on smell, texture, and heat level. We're gonna say clam chowder. I would not want clam chowder in my underwear, right? And I'm gonna throw in for number 1. I'm going to say matcha because that was a waste of your money. And it's also it's the most overrated liquid to be in your underwear. So
fair.
Those are my top 3.
I got to say, in terms of human bodily fluids, I don't even rank pee as the worst. That I would rather have pee in my underwear than the other options. I don't want blood. Yeah.
Okay. Fair.
And then, liquid excrement. I would also, I would rather do a pee. Then
that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose there is one that comes out. They're like, I can live with that, but we'll just leave that to people. All right. So who else is making an impression?
Okay. We went through red, on yellow. The only one that I feel like is standing out to me is MC in terms of I want to watch this person more.
Interesting. I need more because she's not standing out to me at all.
Really?
This episode a little bit more because she seems like the smarter, level-headed one. Is that kind of where you're going?
Yes. Okay. I think that's what it is. I think you're slowly getting a sense of okay, this person is level-headed. This person seems to be, competent in challenges. They seem to be kind of ready to play the game. And I'm just I just like her vibe, like we said in Survivor, sometimes all you need is a vibe to get an ick or to really be, drawn to someone. I like her vibe. I think everyone else on yellow is just kind of mellow in there.
Jason seems like a cool enough guy. I don't know if he's interesting at all other than his puzzle dominance. Yeah, no, that's fair. This is the first episode that MC did anything. It felt like I wasn't. Yeah, I didn't know who she was for the first 2. Yeah, and then when we get to see her talk, when we're talking about the idols and all that, it's okay, yeah. If given something to do, there could be something there. So that's fair.
Yeah. And then blue, Alex stays, goes. If he gets more interesting, I'll be more invested. Meh. Sophi, I think probably could have been a good, interesting character over the course of a season had she not already been at Tribal week after week after week and just been ground down to this.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. So, aligned on all that. So, but yeah. For me, I said this last week, is still true now, that so far the only potential star of this cast is Savannah. Maybe Rizzo in a different way, just not my type. Again, he's not bothering me, but I don't see that there'll ever be a time it's oh yeah, Rizzo, I'm just too old for this shit. But yeah, but I mean, again, most of these people haven't really been playing Survivor, so we'll see what happens. All right, I think that's about it for this episode, unless you have anything else. This episode of Survivor, I should clarify.
Oh no, I was going to say, if you want to do the real top three, I didn't do this much research into my top three for us to not get into.
Oh no, we're definitely going to get into that.
Okay, all right.
I just, if you had any, I like to warn the viewers. I don't know why they would skip the top three part. I mean, it's usually, especially on an episode like this is going to be the meat. Obviously, every once in a while you hear the topic is like, I could give a shit, and then you could leave. But before that, we talk about this every week. There's opportunity to send fan mail. Obviously, this is not the only way to engage with the show. The best way is through our website and the comments, and that's how we met you, for instance.
Yes.
But
eventually I will make my way back there. I
feel like last season you weren't up to date week to week on the show. Is that accurate? Like you kind of fell behind episodes, and then you're like, fuck it, I don't even enjoy this season.
No, I definitely, whenever I miss an episode, I make it up within 48 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more, okay, this is peek behind the curtain. This is personal life. And you hate to hear it. I've become important at my job.
Yeah, that's the worst.
I don't work an email job. I think some people know that I'm a teacher. So I don't necessarily work an email job, and yet I become the person who all the emails route through for certain things and projects. And so it's just, it's been kicking my ass over the past few years, and eventually maybe things will die down. But because I am, unfortunately, important at my job, I keep getting tapped for special, new projects, new initiatives. I do this one recurring event that is actually, I will say, happening. We are 7 days out. No, that's wrong. 9 days out from our big club event, which I'm not going to bore the listeners with, even though I think it's interesting. I'll tell you, off mic. But that's everything just takes up all my time. And so when you met me through the comments, I think I was in college at the time.
School yet?
Yeah, no. So I was in college at the time, and so there was so much open time for me to be like, oh yeah, I'll be in the comments and I can keep this page open and I'll hop in and out and message while I'm doing this work and I'm just sitting in class and it's whatever. And then, you get a real job and then you become important at that job. And it is just, it's not that I hate the commenters, it's definitely not as much as Andy does.
No, hard to do. But eventually I will make my way back there. Sometimes I dip in, sometimes it's just hard to accomplish. Mm-hmm. But another way people can reach us, not you should probably just Slack us, Brad, but it's through fan mail. There's links on every post and all that. You send a text-based message. If you identify who you are, we'll know. Otherwise, we don't, other than messages are clumped together by probably IP address. I don't know. So we know when the person that has sent this message has sent previous messages, but we don't have your name or your email address and definitely not your phone number. So the only way we can respond is if you interest us with your comment and we read it here, which I'm going to do with this one. Just give me a moment. This one's a little bit longer, but I felt it was important to read it in full. So attached is a photo, not taken by me, I'll let you know when, of the black-banded sea crate, also known as the Chinese sea snake. They largely reside within the Pacific Ocean, though some have been known to cross into the Sea of Japan's waters due to habitat degradation, and make their habitats in coral reefs on the ocean floor. They are nocturnal, but amphibious, so are thus forced to breach the surface as least every 6 hours in order to breathe. As mentioned previously, sea krates are highly venomous, and the black-banded sea crate in particular possesses paralytic venom of a higher potency than almost any other snake in the world, with a lethal dosage of over 4 times higher than the feared inland taipan, and as the episode noted, 10 times that of any rattlesnake, even the Mojave Green. Unlike those land snakes, however, black-banded sea krates are known for their docility. Reported bites are extremely rare due to their reclusiveness and nocturnal nature, and are rarer still are the wet bites, given that they generally aim to conserve their venom for hunting purposes only. So, why was Jake bitten? Unlike most other sea snakes, the black-banded sea crate lay their eggs on land and tend to return to the same spots that they marked as their breeding grounds. They also possess a rather poor vision on land due to their extensive time in low-light habitats, making their time on shore in the midst of most vulnerable state, a male aiming for courtship, or perhaps a female looking to lay her eggs, would be much more easily threatened than usual, and then they ran out of probably text character limit there. I read that. I mean, some of you guys might actually find that really interesting. Maybe there's like clues in there for why this happened, but I mostly read this because this is the 4th time this person has texted us through fan mail, and every time it opens the same way. Attached is a photo, not taken by me. I'll let you know when. Even though we've made it quite clear, and I'm sure this person knows, that you can not attach photos. I imagine they're not actually attaching anything. If you are, we won't get it. And each time they've gone on for like this long about snakes. It's amused us every time we've read it because it's like I'm guessing this person is in on the bit, and I just kind of wanted to point it out because what they started as just like a bit, probably to amuse John more than me, but both of us, ended up being so very relevant, so amazing. Just like this is seasons long. This bit has been going on, and now was your time to shine, person. That's right. They didn't know that the snake would be so important to Survivor. Actually, reminds me of a comment that was in comments. Our fruit bat, Fiji Island or Fijian fruit bat commenter early in the episode is like, what a beautiful snake. I support anything that they'll do. Harsh, just harsh. I choose to believe that was posted before it threatened a man's life, but
but the man ended up fine. So weeds out the wildlife. I will say, as you were reading that, I was somewhat disappointed. I don't know that John would have come into this if I was recording with him, but we weren't getting your best David Attenborough. I feel like if you had committed to that bit.
Well, I just wanted to give people a chance to hear more of a Canadian accent because we ain't going to do it on this show anymore.
Nope.
Yeah, pour one out for my homies. Both. 2 in 1 episode.
I'll be honest. Jake's Canadian accent was over the top. You could sense it. I didn't know that Jeremiah was Canadian until I don't even remember what word he said, but there was just one word dropped in the middle of a confessional. I'm like, oh, he's Canadian. Yeah. Like I hadn't sensed it up until that point, and just that one little vowel.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I do not know, but I suspect I can often similarly be that. Like, and you can forget that I am, and then I said, there's probably a few things I say that's like, oh, no, there it is. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe like everything I say sounds so very Canadian to you guys. I'm fine with it either way. Yeah, so that brings us into tonight's top 3, which is we batted back. I mean, obviously, you heard Brad's golden idea, but landed on top 3 fictional snakes. We didn't want to go with like snake types or anything because like we couldn't compete with our fan mailer here for that kind of knowledge. So these are any kind of snake that have appeared in some kind of work of fiction, and it's open-ended like that. I'll leave it to everybody there. I'll say I have no honorable mentions. I just went with 3. How about yourself?
I only have 3.
Okay. How about you hit us off with your number 3?
Okay, my number 3, and I can already hear Emma yelling at me and being mad that this is my 3 when I'm not a super fan of The Simpsons. It's Snake Jailbird. It's got to be Snake Jailbird. Yeah, great character, classic bits. There's only so many fictional snakes. I am curious to hear who you came up with, but Snake Jailbird number 3.
Considered. Luckily, no overlap so far. So for night number 3, I went with the Midgard serpent. I think it's pronounced as Jormungandr from Norse mythology. The Midgard serpent, the world serpent, you might refer to, is a serpent so big that he wraps around the entire earth. He is the offspring of Loki, and when this serpent unbites its tail, it wrapped around and then swallowed its tail in Ouroboros. I wonder how that sounded with my Canadian accent.
Very Canadian, I'll just tell you.
Yeah, fair. When he finally stops eating his own tail, that signals the beginning of Ragnarok, and he defeats Thor. Am I a big fan of Norse mythology? Not really, but I read Thor comics in the 80s. There was Walt Simonson arc, which is one of the best arcs in all of comic history, which concludes with Thor's great battle with the Midgard serpent, which is like a full issue of this battle. Every page is a splash page, and it fucking rips. So. That's my number 3.
Okay. If that's your number 3, I will echo what you said. That I do not think we're going to get overlap on this one.
All right.
I'm good with that. My number 2 in this I think this is more of a snake than Snake Jailbird was. I'm going with Jafar, and Jafar does turn into a snake at some point in the movie, so we're gonna count that. But Jafar, just the epitome of iconic gay villainry.
Yes.
Just an absolute S tier of a character. You gotta love Jafar, and so since I'm trying to fill out a list of fictional snakes, he's slotting in number 2.
All right, number 2, highly inspired by this episode. Obviously, all of these lists are, no matter how far I stretch. And man, you guys missed a really deep stretch of one of my suggestions. I'm not going to tell anybody. You'll never guess. Jake the Snake Roberts, from then WWF fame, the professional wrestler. That, like, how ironic that the survivor taken out by a snake is named Jake. Those of you you might have no idea who I'm talking about. Both A, I don't know if you have any interest in professional wrestling. B, you were not even close to being a zygote during this guy's professional career. But yeah, he was this guy who fought, and a highly respected wrestler who was just drunk and drugged out of his mind his whole career. When he would defeat his opponent with a sleeper hold, he would cover them with his pet snake, boa constrictor. That's Jake the Snake.
I will say, when you said WWF, I was like, oh, right, WWF existed before WWE. So in that sense, you are correct about my understanding of Jake the Snake. All right. So then my number 1, and this is why I knew that we were not going to overlap number 1s. Best fictional snakes. It is the hair snakes of Celia May in Monsters, Inc. Yeah,
the Gorgon-like snakes.
Exactly. But it's taking, right, the monstrosity, that sort of archetype of the Gorgons, of Medusa, and turning it into something chic, something fashion forward, reclaiming that sort of monster aesthetic, right, in a way that is just really, not deserving of number 1. So right. Celia May's hair snakes, I'm slotting in at number 1. Not just because of the effects, but also like they helped build the character and they have a personality of their own as well.
Excellent. So for my number 1 fictional snake of all time, I'm going with Solid Snake from the Metal Gear.
I had to figure. I figured that this was coming.
Yeah. Who is undoubtedly based on Snake Plissken, but I don't have him on my list because I've never actually seen Escape from New York. But Metal Gear Solid, the PS2 game, which I have bought now for like a remixed or version for PS5, is like, if I was to do top 3 video games, there's a chance it would make that. It's just I loved that game so much. I actually haven't even finished Metal Gear Solid 2, but I have it, and maybe one day I will. But, Solid Snake. And one of the reasons I think I haven't fully engaged in the sequel is that you don't get to play as Solid Snake for a lot of it. And fuck that other guy. Solid Snake is the one.
I do want to point out and just put a flag on this of this is very archetypal of your top 3 being Gen X white dude. And
yes,
my top
fair.
3 being like,
that's another great reason why you're here, man. We for one brief shining moment, we have something approaching diversity on the podcast that always makes such a great point to be like, oh, it's so good that the show is diverse. Let us 2 similarly aged white guys talk it out.
Well, glad to be here.
Yeah,
glad to contribute to the podcast diversity initiatives.
Yes. I don't know what percentage we're hitting here. Might be sub 1. But yeah, no. And look, as everybody laid out, because they're like, Brad was great. This wasn't even a good episode of Survivor. Why don't you have him on very often? I refer to the beginning of the episode and he's like, I'd like to, but I really got to go to bed. Yeah. So I'm glad you were here on that. And yeah, on that note, what we're going to do here is we're going to end the podcast so Brad can do that. But before I do that, or once I say, end it, I'm going to make sure that I hit save on this podcast so that people other than you and I can hear it. But thanks for showing up this week. Anything else?
Thanks for having me. Nope.
All right, let's hit that music.
This is the copyright free